All right, welcome to the Golf Coach Podcast, Jono. How you going, brother?
Good, Tobes. How are you, mate? Thanks for having me on. Appreciate your taking the time.
Mate, thanks for coming on. You too, mate. I think this is the third time. We've had a few schedules
A
come.
few misfires.
I know, well, life had COVID.
We've been busy.
It's been a bit crazy, right? A few unexpected things that happened. Good unexpected things, but unexpected things. But hey, it's good to have you on, right? So it's been a long time. It's been a long time. I've bumped into you.
It's been a few years.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
So, Jono, you're an Australian PGA member, right?
That's right. Yeah. I think it's my 6th or 7th year now as a full member.
Yeah.
Did my traineeship at Avondale Golf Club in Sydney, and yeah, it's been a pretty cool journey, I guess. So
It's an unusual type of journey. You know, you must have just started your traineeship as soon as I finished, did you?
I think so. Yeah, I started in 2014. I think it was 2014, maybe. Yeah, I think you might have just been going out or just.
It's on my ward over there. It's something I
Is
can just see it actually. I spilt water on it yesterday, and it's over there drying. It's like 2012 or 2013. I think I finished. It was just under my desk, and I spilt some water on my.
Bit of peg on the clothesline business, keeping it dry, mate.
It's on the lounge. It's on the spare lounge. Oh, mate. Yeah. Well, I thought you must have. It was like a bit of a sliding kind of doors moment. So you're I've got you on the podcast. You know, as most people who listen to the podcast, I have people on here for lots of educational purposes. You know, we have PGA Tour players, PGA Tour coaches, fitness experts, and you are a person who I've had on for a while because you're a caddy, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm gone down the caddy route. Been doing it full time for probably the last kind of 3 years or so. But before that, on and off, I've been caddying I reckon, since I was 13. So like 2000 Cannon Challenge was my first event. I worked there for an American guy called Mark Wilson, 5-time PGA Tour winner. So I like to kind of think that that I pushed him on his way there. You know, little old fat kid with a bowl cut. So
he won like 3 times in a row or something, like something crazy.
Yeah, he won the Honda, he won the Sony Open, and I think he won Phoenix twice.
Yeah.
Or no, he won the Honda twice maybe, and he held like a 50-foot putt for par on that 18th there, the par 5.
Yeah.
To stay in the playoff, I think, and then won the next morning. Crazy.
It's crazy, and he had a really crazy part of his career. Anyway, enough about Mike. Let's talk about Jono. How does Jono? So 13, and you're carrying a bag. What drew you?
Yeah.
What drew you to caddying? Is it just because you love golf like us, or what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up like we all kind of, as a little kid, kind of just you dream big and you see everyone on telly, and it's like, oh, that looks pretty cool. And if you can't hit the shots, the next best thing's probably standing right beside the guy who can, and that you're still in the thick of it. It's like having you've got a courtside seat to the best theatre on earth, I guess. To me personally, I mean, I couldn't think of any better place to be than in the middle of the 18th fairway with 5 deep either side, and you got a chance to win the Aussie Open or something. Like, I mean, that's magic, and that's kind of poetry for me. So
yeah. We'll get into that type of stuff. I've just experienced it, and it's something that I definitely not for me, caddy, and that's. But okay, so you were drawn to caddying from a young age, like you obviously were keen on it, and I got told from a young age that my father always said you should be a caddy, but obviously there's a lot more to just being a caddy. So then you must have rekindled. So you were doing a bit of part-time caddying, and then 3 years ago you picked up. I'm guessing when it went full time, is that when you had Jordan Zunich's bag?
Yeah, when I had Jay-Z, yeah, that was very lucky to go on board with him there for a few years. I did a lot of work with Harrison Endicott, or I did two years with him as well before that, which was awesome.
Yes.
My boss at Avondale was great because Harrow's an Avondale member too.
Oh,
so,
of course.
Yeah,
yes.
We got to go around Oz and New Zealand. I linked up with him in New Zealand Open, I think it was, and he had a really good week. He was leading after day one, and it's just
wow.
It was pretty cool. Young kid, and then we had a few good years and got to go to the Alfred Dunhill with him, and
yes.
I think it's being a caddy. I think is really you're able to see golf from a different angle. You see when you're playing, you kind of see the one shot you want to hit.
Yeah.
But when you're caddying, you've got you see a few different options.
Yeah.
And that kind of helps. That helped me growing up trying to play as well, that you could, there's more than one way to skin a cat kind of thing. And if you took your time to analyze it, you'd probably get the best out of yourself too on the golf course.
Yeah. So. Yeah. That's something I definitely want to get into as well. So tell me, before we get into the kind of the nuts and bolts of caddying, do you have any idols? Is there anyone that you kind of look up to in the caddying world? I listen to a few podcasts, obviously, and we've heard of the famous ones like Bones. I actually heard how he was called Bones. Do you know that? Phil Mickelson's old caddy?
Yeah, Freddie at the buffet, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then he's like, hey, eat some Bones.
Yeah,
or something.
It was like, so they were at an event and Phil Mickelson brought this new caddy along and he's skinny. His name's Bones. Jim McKay.
Jim McKay, yeah.
And he's sitting there and Freddie Couples forgot his cutlery.
That's right.
Couples turns around and he's looking at Jim McKay. Bones, who's Phil Mickelson's caddy, is famous now, obviously. He's back on the bag for Justin Thomas. He went commentating for a year. And Freddie looked at him and just yelled at all these names. Like John, Tom, Jono, Toby, and wouldn't turn around. Bones! And apparently he answered to it.
Turn around.
And that was
like, here you go.
One of the most famous nicknames in golf.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah. So who do you look up to? Who do you look up to?
I mean, Bones is a good one.
Yeah.
I mean, because I listened to a few podcasts with him lately.
Yes.
He's very, very intuitive and good to listen to, and he's got some killer stories.
Yeah.
I mean, I just kind of picked up on a lot of. I used to observe a lot of caddies, and whenever the Aussie guys came back, I'd always watch what their caddies would do and stuff, and how they'd go about their game. I mean, Jimmy Johnson was a good one. He caddied for Justin Thomas before Bones did, and then like Michael Grell was a good one. He caddies for Spieth. Yes. They've got a great. I think it's more about. I like to see how they interact as well, and a lot of players have a special relationship with their caddy, or vice versa. Like Fluff Cowan, I mean, he was with Tiger, and now he's with Jim Furyk. He's been with Jim since '99, I think. And it's just I kind of like how they go about their business.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys. Joey LaCava, caddies for Tiger.
Yeah.
He was with Freddie for ages.
Yeah.
I mean, you just kind of pick up on. I don't necessarily probably have an idol, but I think I take a lot from different people.
That's I heard someone talking about. I heard a great podcast, and they were talking about caddy relationships, and one of them was talking about they were identifying all the best relationships out there on tour, and one of them was Spieth's caddy and his caddy, and they were talking about how, as a caddy, you've got to come up with a couple of options for your player, and they said, well, Spieth's caddy's got to come up with 10. They were talking.
Yeah, that's right.
How he's just got such an analytical brain. His brain's just clocking and ticking over. And he said, well, Spieth's caddy's very busy. It's not just the stock shot. It's all these different types of.
Got low, high.
Like Timmy Tucker, right? Who used to caddy for Bryson. That would have been a tough job too.
Oh yeah, God. I mean, that would have taken a special individual to do that, because that just seemed.
He's actually just doing.
That seemed a lot.
He's doing a seminar coming up for the skills coaches, and there was, I might jump on if the timing's right, but he's doing a green reading seminar actually.
Oh, that'd be cool. That'd be interesting.
Yeah. All right. So that's interesting. So, all right, let's get into kind of the caddying side of it. Let's just talk about your relationship. So you were with Jordan Zunic for a long time, and
for 3 years.
And when you're a caddy, I'm assuming each player has different requirements, right? From each, like some people would like a lot of information, some people wouldn't like a lot of information. Like, what was like the nuts and bolts of what makes a good caddy is someone who identifies a caddy who can identify what the player actually needs from you, like getting that relationship right.
That's right. You've got to kind of when you're a caddy, you've got to get into their world. You got to become part of their world. They don't adjust to you. You've got to adjust to them.
Yeah.
Because there's no good saying, "Oh, I think you should hit like a little half chip 6 iron," when all they want to do is hit full drawing 8-iron or something. You know what I mean? Like you've got to. It's kind of You've definitely got to. You can offer that suggestion, but you've got to understand how they think and try and keep it as simple for them as possible to get the most out of their game.
Yeah. And I guess you're probably looking at it from a little bit of clarity as well, and you, a lot of the time, you would probably know the right decision within them, right? You got a pretty good idea what the right decision is for them to do, and then you got to try and convince them, but also to do it in a sly, convincing way.
Yeah,
like try
definitely
encourage them into the right answer that you know what's the right shot for them to hit, and then you got to try and do it just in case they're actually thinking the other way. Because you don't want to be too contradictory or against what they're thinking, right? You got to try and pry the answer out of them. And I just recently had my debut caddying experience.
You did, that's right.
And
with the great man,
Mr. Andrew Campbell, friend of ours, and
great hair,
friend of the podcast.
Head and Shoulders, if you're listening.
Handsome.
Get amongst it.
He will be listening. He's a very handsome man. When he came to my wedding, he was getting lots of attention. Let's just say that.
Was he?
Yes. Who's that?
As he should.
Man with the long hair. And anyways, I got on the bag for him, right? And it was a story that just unfolded. I was going up for the awards night, the National Medal, and I just sent him a text saying, "Hey, dude, I'm staying up for the club champs. I'm not club champs. I'm staying up there for the Australian PGA champs. If you can, come stay with me or whatever. I know you're playing it." And he said, "Oh, my caddy's gone down with a bung ankle. Is there any chance you can," which is Richie, "any chance you can jump on the bag?" And I said, "Yeah, no worries. This will be a lot of fun." And I really didn't know what I was getting myself into. And from my experience of just sharing it before I kind of learn from you, is that I was packing it. I was really nervous for him because he's one of my very good friends, and I was too nervous to be caddying. Like I felt like I had too much in the game. And I didn't know what to say, like if should I be encouraging him, because I hadn't hung out with, I've only played relaxed rounds of golf with him majority of the time. I haven't played a professional tournament with him, maybe once or twice, but nothing for his career. And I was so nervous. And I guess at the end of it all, and he didn't have a great week, and it was just so disappointing. But at the end of it, I said to myself, like, I'm a really good golf coach, right? Let's say I'm a golf coach, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a good horse trainer. I'm not a good jockey, even though I'm tall enough to be a jockey. So I looked at it like I'm the Gay Waterhouse. Like I can get the student ready, right?
Yeah.
I get you ready. You go play your tournaments. I've got lots of players who play mini tour events all around the world. You go play them. I'm going to have my egg sandwich, and whatever you score, it's up to you and your caddy, and let's dissect it after. When I was out there with him, God, my heart was racing, absolutely racing, and I was so nervous I couldn't talk on the first tee. And anyways, that was my experience. So I'm never doing it again, unfortunately. Never doing it.
Sacked yourself.
No, sacked myself. And I just, it's a nerve-wracking experience. Do you get nervous as a caddy?
I think, I do get nervous, but I get more nervous kind of when when you're with someone who's in the thick of it, and it's kind of not necessarily get nervous. I get more excited now because I know what could happen.
Yeah.
But I definitely I do get nervous on occasion. I think when it's kind of like when you're in between clubs or something and you say, it's they go with me instead of them, and you're just like, oh, fingers crossed, come on, and you're like, oh shit, I hope I pull the wrong club here, or the right club here, and hopefully it just goes in the middle of the green, and you're like, all right, cool, here's your putter, go knock it in, kind of thing. I think that's probably what makes me the most nervous out there is when it's your call, even though you know that it's probably the right one to do, and they back you for that, and they've got to hit the shot. That's probably that's what brings out the nerves. In that regard, which is just trying to make an educated guess at what would be the best thing to go for.
Yeah, and mate, I'm still having fucking nightmares. I gave the wrong club to Cambos on hole 2, round 2. I said it's 3-wood at the Aussie PGA there, Royal Queensland second. I said it's just 3-wood, just knock it up the left channel there. And I didn't realise it was fucking piss like the left and just.
Oh no! And I went left down the little
Yeah.
down the alley there.
Mate, you hit it on one. You hit 3 with lobby to 3 feet, missed it, and then gets down 2, hits 3 with straight in the water, makes 5. My fault. Next hole, hits driver gut wedge to 2 feet, made birdie. I'm sitting there going, we should be 2 or 3 under, and still in the par. You know. Anyways, so yeah, when you make a decision that when you got a bit more in the game, I guess that's when your nerves come in. But you're a pretty calm kind of collected guy, right? So, tell me now, what's the biggest event you've caddied in?
I've caddied on the European Tour. I've done a few events there. I've done, I think, probably Q School, final stage European Tour Q School.
Yeah,
that's pretty big. I think 6 rounds.
And that's big because of the circumstance and what's on.
I think definitely. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot on the line. It's guys playing for. I mean, everyone who's there's got status, but it's generally determined how good their status is, and it's like whether they earn X amount of dollars from their sponsors or they're trying to stay 3 to a room, etc.
Whose bag did you have?
Yeah. I caddied for Jay-Z in Q School there, so. That was 2019, I think, just before we got shut down with COVID.
So what was it like leading up to the event?
Yeah, it was good. It was good fun. Like we had second stage, and that was second stage was a hell of a story. We played this rules official Pascal. He was like he was a slow play, like he hated slow play, and apparently we were out of position by 2 minutes, so we had to run the last 3 holes, and it was like blowing a 40k hurricane, and Jay-Z played him in like 2 under. He hit this 8-iron from 160 to about 1 foot on the last, knocked it in, and was inside by 2. And that's probably the best pressure shot I've ever seen.
Wow.
And he still talks about it today. Like it was, and then final stage rolls along, and
when you have second stage into they usually happen pretty quickly after each other, don't they?
Straight away next week, yeah. Like it's literally you finish on the finish Sunday. Start on the Thursday, but you've got to go learn 2 courses, and it goes Thursday to Tuesday.
Okay.
So we missed that 4-round cut there, so unfortunately by a couple. And it was like it's Spain. Everyone thinks it's beautiful and sunny. It was like 5 degrees blowing sideways. It was some of the hardest golf I've ever seen.
So there was a cut. There was a cut after 4 rounds.
4-round cut, and then the top 60 or so make it. Top 60 make the cut, and then it's like the top 20 get full Euro, and then the next 20 get partial Euro and full challenge, and then the rest get they get partial Euro as well, but it's like 4 events or something, and then
4 events in like
South
Africa and things like that, and
Kenya or like Russia, or when the Russian event was on. So kind of
it's so difficult for these players to like. As you mentioned at the start there, them getting a card, like, they're fighting for just more of a card, right? And these guys have got, you've got to understand, like people listening to this, that, you hear of these stories that pop up sometimes from time to time when someone keeps their card through 9 starts. Like it's so hard. Like one of my friends, Dominic, has a party. He coached a lady this year, and she only had 11 starts and nearly kept her card. But if you put it on average per round that she played, she was probably one of the best of the year, because she just didn't get that fucking chance to play more. Everyone around her had 25 tournaments, and got the 11 and nearly got in. So it's cutthroat. So you felt there was more pressure involved in that European Tour last stage than any other event you'd been at?
Yeah, definitely. I think so. Just purely because it's purely circumstantial. Yeah. The other events you're there, so it's like you're in the event, so you can just go and play. But getting in that mindset of just going to go and play and do your best is hard. But once you're there, it's beautiful, because you don't, it's kind of a perfect storm where you're just playing freely. But I guess having status helps with that, yeah. So when you're not sure of what status you'll have, that's what makes Q School like the hardest thing, I guess, to process. And if a guy's in that, a guy's just going, oh yeah, I'll just go and do this. If they're in that mindset with blinkers on, then they're just like, yeah, it's pretty cool to watch. So
Oh, mate, you see some of the stories of people getting through Q school, and it's just, it's tough. It's so tough. People don't understand how tough it is. Like,
it's a grind. It's 6 hours every day on the golf course. That's disregarding warm up, practice.
yeah,
Like the warm up in the gym, warm up on the course, playing around, warming down, going home, doing it again. It's like it's a lot mentally, physically, but more mentally, I think.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, big time. So tell me, what is it like when you have to go get ready for two courses? Tell me, what's it the first thing that happens when you have to get ready for a course? What do you got to do?
Well, you just I mean, it's if you know the course, it's a lot easier than if you don't. I think for me personally,
Yes.
but we generally we'll go and get our yardage book, and Edro does them down here. Does a great job. We get uh, detailed look at the course, and there's every hole's mapped out with distances, and
Yeah.
there's normally dots to the front of the green on the fairways, red, yellow, and white, and then you get a map of the green in five. The grids are in 5 meter increments, kind of, and that's how we map the pin positions as well, because the tour sends them out. Jimmy Nichols in the tour, he sends them out every night before the rounds, and we can get used to it. But you just go on. You go on if you know you've done it. We'll just go and quickly walk it and go. Oh, yep, this looks the same as before. But if not, it's kind of I like to go and walk each course, and I walk it backwards. I start at the 18th green, and I normally walk it in reverse, so I finish on the first tee. Purely because I feel like I see more where the tee shot should be, and then the approach shot, as opposed to you can see all the trouble from the green looking back. From the tee, I don't feel like you can, on some courses, like the perfect example is the old course at St Andrews. You can't see any bunker from the tee at all.
Yeah.
If you look from the green back, you can see everything.
That's interesting. So, and also as well, as you're walking back, you can start to identify landing zones, right? So, say you're walking to the middle of the fairway, or walking down the fairway to where a driver might finish, you can identify where a good spot is.
Yeah, that's right.
Interesting.
So you can see how the fairway shapes as well, around bunkers or around hollows or grass bunkers or creeks or whatever. Like you might see and you can also, when you're walking, you can see probably a firmer patch or a soft patch, so to speak, as well. And especially if you're in Queensland or Florida, there's grain, right? So you can kind of see how the grain. You can see how that. You can see that either way, but I find it better to look back down the hole to see how it goes.
How important is it for then, once you do that, does the player have to play the course?
It depends on how much faith they've got in you, I guess.
Yeah.
So, and how they're playing. But yeah, I mean, it does help. But a lot of, I know that, and it depends on their mindset too. Like, I mean, there was I guess a prime example is Harrington at the 2007 Open. He didn't have his clubs, or he had a bung wrist for a bit, and he didn't play a practice round, but he walked Birkdale twice, and he won.
Wow.
Because he was just he was so prepared that he goes, okay, I'm just going to hit it there, and I'm going to hit it there.
Yeah.
And I think, it depends on, it's so many things. Yes, it does help, but it also depends on a player's, what frame of mind they're in as well.
Interesting.
So
that's interesting because I guess that's a different way of looking at it. When I did my traineeship the second time, the first time I didn't get through, I and found a bit of a party hole and didn't end up finishing my time, but redid it again. And when I did it again, I didn't have any playing history, and I was a bit concerned because I wanted the PGA to know that I could still play. I actually went to the golf course, which is at Linwood Country Club, or Linwood Golf Club, whatever it's called. And
is that when you got adult clubs, not kid clubs?
Adult clubs?
Yeah, full size.
No, I went there and I played. My club's now a quarter inch shorter, thank you. I played, and I played it every week,
Yep.
about 6 months, maybe even twice a week. My friend and I, Shane, we went out there and played it, and I knew the course like the back of my head. So when it was tournament time for the playing test, it was like just playing a Wednesday comp for me. I think I came second to Alex Edge. And he goes,
shout out to Edgy.
I know.
Great week last week for the great man.
Did he?
So yeah, he came fourth. in the Gippsland Super 6.
Oh, good on him.
So,
Good on him.
he had a great result.
He needs it, the big unit. Yeah, but anyway, so I just got myself very familiar with the golf course, and it made myself very comfortable. I got very comfortable there, and you're saying the same thing for these guys that are so good. They just need to know numbers, right?
That's right. Yeah, they need to know numbers, where it's landing, where it's finishing, what to avoid.
Yeah.
And I actually walked 9 holes at Kingston Heath last week with Stuart Beck. He's Adrian Morong's caddy. Stu and I became mates through caddying, which has been great. And Adrian ended up winning the Aussie Open, right?
Yes.
And so we walked Kingston Heath. We walked the front 9 on Monday Arvo. And I was just picking his brain a bit. And he's like, basically, all I do is mark out where the really safe area is.
Yes.
And that's where Adrian hits it. And then he just hits to the next safe area, and that's all he does. Like he said, bunkers are a no-go. If I put him in a bunker, I lose my job. So I think that's a good thing for people listening to kind of take away is wherever the trouble is, just stay away from it. Yeah. Take 20 off a bunker, take 30 off a bunker, whatever you got to do, chip out if you have to, kind of. And that was really good. There was nothing fancy to it. And he said the same thing. They played a few holes. They played a lot with Fleetwood, and they played a few times with John Rahm. And he said all they did was play. They can hit the exceptional shot, but they literally just played golf in the simplest way possible. Yeah. Hit it to there, hit it to there, and hit it to 30-foot, hole a putt.
I don't argue that at all, because I've heard stories around Tiger. They always say if Tiger's ball finished 20 foot left of the flag, he was aiming 20 foot left of the flag. It was just how good he was. And these guys played this simple format, and this is the argument that I talk to my students around. They say, "Oh, I need to try and fade it," and I go, "Well, you've got to draw bias pattern. You know how hard it is for you to actually move that swing direction left and fade the ball.
Yeah,
it's fucking not worth it." And I use, they go, "What happens if the pin's right?" I go, "Well, guess what? You just don't go for it."
That's right.
So tell me now, I've got a question for you. Do you know how far each one of your players hit it? Do they tell you this?
Yeah. I kind of they'll either tell me or I figure it out pretty quickly because I need to. I was lucky with Jordan because he hit it in meters what I hit it, because I work in yards. He hit it in meters what I hit it in yards, so I was just like copying myself, which was pretty cool. He did drive a little bit further, but we won't talk about how far past he hit it. But yes. So that was you either learn or you get a feeling as well when you're out there as well, how they're hitting it and how if they're jacked up on adrenaline or they're not feeling it and they're kind of hitting it a bit shit.
Yeah.
Kind of, you got to allow for that as well. But you got to have an idea, definitely.
So tell me now, what about putting? So I've got written here on my list of questions for you about green reading, and have you got a story around green reading, or is it different for each player? See, you've got a lot of speed control, right? So speed dictates. Yep. You got green reading, speed. Your 3 variables are green reading, speed, line.
Yeah.
They're 3 variables, right? You got to get speed out. Now, how does it work?
Well, for me, pace dictates line. Number one rule for me. Pace dictates line.
Yep.
And Mark Wilson told me that long time ago. But generally, I let the player will do their own putting a lot. If they had trouble or they're not sure, they'll go, "Hey, Paints, come in, have a look for me. What do you see?" But generally, everyone I worked with, they'll look from every angle, and they'll look when they're walking up to the green.
Yeah.
They'll look to where the low point is, of the green. That's where all the water drains. If it's green, they'll look where the sun is or the hole, and how the grass is sitting over the hole. But generally you kind of look behind, look around, underneath. I always find the best for me to read a putt. The best way was underneath.
Yeah.
So like if ball's kind of on your left and the hole's on your right, or vice versa, I look underneath the putt.
Yeah.
Or I look from, I always read a putt up the hill. Yeah. Down the hill, I've got nothing. But up the hill, I can generally read it. And then, just the pace they want. And then if they get, but they'll, you always get called in, or I'm thinking this, you go, yep, or no. So, it's pretty simple.
Even like, I guess sometimes they might be a little bit, like I remember, like I would say to Andrew, when I said to Andrew in my time was, I think you're looking for something that's not there. When you're a little bit confused, like, if this is moving left or right, isn't it? Oh, this is straight. Like, just tell me, and they can kind of feel it in from there, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely, absolutely. The one thing, if they're confused a bit or they're trying to look for what's not there, I'd say trust your gut. Because normally, 9 times out of 10, the first thing you see is what the putt will do.
Mm.
So if you're just walking up to the green and you go and mark your ball and you look up a bit and you go, oh, right edge. And then you have a look around a bit and you're like, oh, it might be a bit. It's generally right edge every time. And I think it's 9 times out of 10 that's what, if I said that to them and they did it, it went in. And I think it's just, a lot of people, we try and look, where golfers are the best at looking for something that isn't there, right?
Yes.
And I remember hearing that on a podcast, I think. It might have even been in Bob Rotella's book, one of his books. Okay. And it was like, we're looking for something that's not there. And the best thing to do is just look and go.
Yeah.
Like what was there in Golf's Not a Game of Perfect? He had the Virginia men's college basketball team, and they're just, they're in the putting green in his home, and they just pick up a putter and look at the ball and just hit it, and it went in.
Yeah.
And he's like, what are you doing? And he's like, we just hit it over there. We just saw that and it went in. And it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I've got a similar story. People who listen to podcasts have heard this when I had Greg Chalmers on, and I was talking about putting when I had this lady come to me. She's like this holistic health teacher, and she's like just this zen of a woman, and she's incredibly gifted at anything she does. And she gets onto the putting green. I'm just getting ready. And she just grabs my putter. I just track my putter, 4 Callaway balls, get my mirror out, all that type of stuff, is throwing it in. And she just starts knocking putts. She goes to like a 40 footer maybe, right, at the links at my golf course. It's not an easy putting green. And she just rolls first one up to like 3 feet. And then went 3 feet past. Beautiful putt from 40 feet. And she just rolls the next one like a foot short. And then she just rolls the next one to like 2 foot just past. And I said to her, you're better than PGA Tour standard. She was holding it split-handed. Her feet were off into the hibiscus. I was aiming way further left, and she just kind of just saw the putt, like you said, saw it, and just putted it down there and hit these amazing putts. I'm not saying she's going to be straight one in, but it was incredible. And I said to her, "Fuck, you're a PGA Tour standard putter," and by the end of it, she said, I was a PGA Tour standard putter to start off with, and now I putt like a 27 handicapper. I said, got stuck in her head. So that's interesting around the green reading type of things. So when you've had players in the past, have you had players who relied on you heavily and players who didn't rely on you heavily?
I kind of, I've had a mixture, I think, but most of the time it was a team effort.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're always, the players are always the one who have the last say, and I think that's very important because they know how they're feeling. I can only feel so much for how they're going, but you kind of, I wouldn't say there are instances where they definitely do. Like I remember there was a time when one of the guys was like, we're standing on a tee and it's a par 3 down the hill, and he's like, oh, I'm feeling a bit like my adrenaline's going here. Just talk to me and tell me what to do. And then, I just had to stand next to him and talk him and calm him down and say, look, you just got to hit this shot. You got 197 meters, just hit 7-iron. And he hit this perfect draw to like 2 foot. And it was,
wow.
He was like, cool. It just kind of, I think it's more moment dependent. But there are instances where guys will go where they, everything's done for them by the caddy, but most of the guys I've had are very self-sufficient, and they'll call you in if they need to, but it's been kind of a team effort, so to speak.
Have you ever just heard someone and just ever thought, or you've thought like, you want me just to fucking hit it for you, mate? Like,
yeah, all the time. No, there's somewhere it's pretty funny because in the end it's just like, yeah, they're like, oh, I could do this and that, and I'm just like, you've got to hit something, mate. So just pick the one you want and go, like, and yeah, it's kind of like you just like sometimes you want to be like, mate, seriously, it's not that hard. Just hit it there. The center of the green doesn't move. Just hit it to the middle of the green, take your 2 putts, and go to the next tee. But it's kind of I never let them know that though.
yeah, it's like just give me a 6-iron, give it here. Everyone look at it. So yeah, and I've always thought that, and there's nothing wrong with. You've mentioned a few times already about just center of the green.
Mm.
Do you think that pros hit more to the center of the green than recreational golfer doesn't hit to the center of the green?
I think so, yeah, because I think they know their limitations a lot better.
Yeah.
Because I remember growing up when I was 12, like I would have 150 because I tried to hit the hero shot like I saw on TV, and I didn't realize that Tiger's in his prime and he's hitting a 4-iron from 200 to 4 foot because he's Tiger Woods, and I think definitely the pros have a better understanding of what they can and can't do, especially. But don't get me wrong, they'll still try and hit that shot when they're either had enough, they're a million over, they're fed up, or they've got to make something happen. They'll try and push the boundaries, but more often than not, they go, okay, I've just got to do that. Yeah. And it's so hard to do, and it takes a lot of time to learn. But if you can do it, sometimes if you've got to chip it backwards to get it back in play, you've got to do it. Otherwise, you could have a 10, and I'll be on the green going, you just had a moose, mate, Like.
Dude, I reckon, like, for people listening to this, the rangefinder is detrimental. And I tell you why, right? Because one of those little, I'm not going to say any names, I've got sponsors to this podcast, but you've got that little rangefinder, little digital thing, right? That you kind of got. And if you just get one of those things, the cheapest one possible, and it's got the middle of the green, you just go, what's the middle of the green? 175. Great. People get their laser out and zap something, and they're not finding the middle of the green.
Mm-hmm.
They're unless they go look at the, a sprinkler head or step something out. But I just think if you hit the middle of every green, right, pick which two you want to put on.
Absolutely. Any day of the week.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the key to, and that's the key to the success as well that the guys and girls have is when they win, more often than not, they hit to the center of the green. They're just holding every putt they look at.
Yeah.
As well, and I think putting's so underrated. I mean, because what's the busiest place for a golfer on a Thursday night? Let's say down at Warriewood, Narrabeen driving range.
Yeah, it's packed.
No one's on chipping green. Everyone's hitting balls.
Yeah. Oh,
but I mean, there's the whole thing. Ball in the air. Oh, it's pretty cool. So
yeah, it's not sexy. It's not sexy, mate. But tell me, and the simple method around putting, right, before we move into a few other topic areas here is, I've asked, I didn't ask this one, but this is the first one, is Jason Day, when he went to being the world's best putter, right, in like 2016 maybe, or 2019.
Yeah.
The year. And they said, what was your secret? And he said, I just went from practicing 2 hours a day to 3 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
I said, what do you mean? He said, yeah, I just do 3 hours a day of putting. Is there a secret? No. I just do 3 hours a day of putting. And I asked Dominic as a party, people will be sick of me saying this, but about Lucas Herbert. And I said, how is Lucas Herbert number 1 and number 2 on putting this year? And he said, he got this mirror, and every single day he gets on the mirror and he just recalibrates himself, finds out that he's square, hits a ton of putts, has confidence in his alignments, and he feels like he can't miss. Yep. What do you mean? There's no secret? He's like, no, there's no secret.
No.
That's it.
No.
It's just the time and effort into it, right? And got a result out of it.
It's crazy how it's the simple things you do. The tour pros who are the best in the world do the simple things the best.
Yeah.
And the prime example, I mean, if we'll just bring another sport in, Johnny Wilkinson, right?
Yes.
England fly half, didn't miss. Never missed. Still haunts me.
Yes.
03, I remember it. I was at Manly Oval. Phil Wall was like this. Didn't get it. Anyway, sorry, Phil. And all he did was he did the same thing. He just kicked the ball a million times a day.
Yeah.
Rain, hail, shine. And I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah. No.
For even if you got 20 minutes on your carpet at home, you know.
Just getting used to your alignments. Like,
Yep.
you know, Johnny Wilkinson, there was I used to work at the Olympic Park driving range, and there was a star there, like a Champions plates. They used to have the plates, and it would, you know, like whoever. And Johnny Wilkinson had one. I used to always step on it. It was never. People listening to this from the UK. It was not in. It was just in a bit of jealous because he terrorised us. You know, as Australian rugby fans, he terrorised us for what he did. He kicked that well. But you know, Robert Rock, who is a you know, swing model of mine and someone who I've got a man crush on.
Great hair.
Great hair.
Fantastic hair.
He is a beautiful man. He, you know, there's two things to him that I use about consistency and training hard, is that he was really good with a 5-iron, right?
Mm.
And he put it down to when he was at his driving range, there's a green where he used to work at and grew up at. There was a green there at like 190 yards, and he pumped 5-irons out it all day. And he felt like when he got a 5-iron in his hand, it was like a wedge. So he hit that many 5-irons, and he was like the world's best from like 190 because he was so good. And then his backswing was developed through working as a security guard at night at a car dealership, and he used to just kind of look at his golf swing in the mirror all night long, like in the windows.
That's crazy, isn't it?
That's just how he developed his swing and got to know his golf swing. Anyways, we're getting off topic here, but putting is great, yes, and green reading. We spoke about that, but what I also want to talk to you about is what's the best round of golf that you've witnessed? Not even one of your players, like when you've been out there caddying. Do you remember specifically and just seeing something super impressive?
Well, yeah, one springs to mind. I mean, but it wasn't a low score. It was Fiji, third round Fiji International final for third round. And I was in the same group as Daniel Gale.
Okay.
And he started off and he went like 8, 7, 9, 5. And I'm like, if it was me, I would have just I'm at the airport on the way home, like no clubs, they're gone in the Pacific. Wow. Gailey never once lost his cool. He maintained his composure. He did everything the same for every shot. And he had like 86 or something. But he never wavered from his objective. He never wavered from his goal for each shot, and he tried on every single shot. And I remember we were searching in some places that no human should go, like around that course in Natadola Bay. There's some, I don't know what was, you know, there could have been any kind of animal in there, and he just was like, "Oh well, I guess I got to go and hit another one." And it was just like, I was like, that was impressive. I remember saying to him, like, I was like, I don't know how you did that, man, but that was probably the coolest thing I've ever seen. Purely just because.
Wow.
And he goes, and Gailey's a legend. Like he will brighten up a room because he's the most positive human alive. And I just remember going, he's like, "It's all right. I'll go get him tomorrow." I was like, "Okay, cool."
Wow.
So that's probably the best. So
he's a top class, top front tour player playing in Fiji. He's made the cut.
Yeah.
He needs to make some money, and he's gone and had a quick little 86, and he hasn't shown any signs of shooting over par.
No, you would. If you looked at him from 2 fairways across, you couldn't have told. You weren't able to tell if he was 6 under or 6 over or, you know, whatever.
That's amazing that stuck with you. That's amazing. When you witness stuff like that, isn't it? It's just it's some things like that just really stick with you, isn't it?
Definitely. I mean, it is, and it's just kind of, it's amazing what we pick up on as well and what we learn from other people and what lessons they could be too. You know what I mean? Like, and you just don't know when it's going to happen. But yeah, it's pretty cool.
And what about the most impressive shot you've seen? Apart from Zunic last round of Dunhill there seemed pretty.
Zunic again at. There's two. I was fortunate enough to go for Jared Lyle in the Victorian Open, the great man, and the 18th hole there, par 5, and it was par 5 is a dogleg left, kind of 470 or something, into the wind. And I remember he had like 260 to the front or something, and it was into the wind, and he's like, "Oh, I don't know, I'm just gonna have to hit driver." I'm like, "Oh, okay, yep, cool." He goes, "No, I got it, sweet." So he's like he's hit deliberately 20 yards right, and he's just hit this driver off the deck, and it was the best thing I've ever seen because it was just flighted into the wind, and I don't think anyone could have ever guys can drive off the deck, but this thing was impressive.
And did it move left to right to left? It was just dead
just
straight.
Just a bullet.
Hitting. Any divot? Was it with a divot driver or just flush?
Just flushed it. Just flushed it up. No, it was just. There's nothing better than a driver off the deck, you know.
I can't do it.
I mean, that's no, neither can I. It'd be low left into the bundi.
Yeah.
Wow. I was fortunate enough to play with Michael Sim in Kalgoorlie, back in a few years ago now. Probably Simi was probably 5 years removed from the tour, the main tour.
Mm-hmm.
And he still flushes it, man. Like he's unbelievable. He had 3-wood into 18, par 5 again, 3-tier green at Kalgoorlie, top, and then it slopes down to a second tier and then another tier. It's like a 60-meter long green with 3. It's like Disneyland. And he's hit the pins in the middle, and he's had like 265, and he's hit this 3-wood. And he's got like a front left section of the green to aim at. And this thing's just taken straight up in the air, carried everything. There was bunkers short, there's shit right, there's out of bounds left. He just hit 3-wood up, and it's just straight up in the air, landed softly, tickled down the slope, and went this far behind the hole, like an inch behind the hole. Walked up there, tapping eagle. I was like, Jesus, okay. That was pretty cool. And here I am chopping around for like 6 over. So,
and I tell you what's impressive, like what you've mentioned there, right? And you probably haven't recognised this, but you've recognised 2 shots there. They're not just your plain hole in one, but they're 2 shots that it takes a special person to hit them. You know, it's not like a 7-9 from, you know, X number that we can all got in our bag. But you mentioned there, like Jared Lyle, like one of the nicest guys I've ever met in my life, and you got to caddy for him, which is an absolute treat. And he's just hit a driver off the deck that not many people in the world could hit. And then you talk about Michael Sim hitting a high-flying 3-wood from 260 to an inch, you know, in those circumstances on a Disneyland green. You know, it's those types of shots that you recognise, right?
Yeah,
3 things you
definitely
there, mate. I lose my shit if I have a bad day. And that's something I don't do, and then I can't hit those other 2 shots. Unbelievable.
It's pretty impressive. The guys it's impressive to watch, and it's like I'm very fortunate to be around that a lot and see how the best do it, and it's pretty. You learn a lot by just observing. I mean, like if you're the next time you're at a Aussie Open or a New South Wales Open or whatever, you know, the Wollongong Blitz Golf on Friday, mate. You know,
I'm teaching.
Just watch how people go about their stuff, and you know the girls are great at it too. The girls are so methodical in what they do, and they plot their way around a golf course. So much better, I think, better than the guys do.
Yeah.
And most guys will admit that. You know, like the girls just bump something down there, and then they hit it where they have to go, and then they'll wedge it to a foot and then tap it in and go to the next.
The men's game on the main tour they talk about has definitely changed in regards to, you know, I think it's even tightened up a little bit, but there was probably 2 years ago there where Bryson and that were just smashing it, going finding it, shipping it and going again. It's Tiger pretty much played with that model. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
I think
bomb and gouge.
Yeah, Tiger's fairway statistics was never high. He always was on the right side, like the correct side, I should say, but he was never really. I think he was always in the 40s for fairways. Like, and if he was in the 60s and 70s, he'd wipe the field by 10.
By a mile. What's that famous story where the Firestone, the last hole there, and him and Ernie are having a shootout, and Tiger's in the left rough. He's got like 210 or 190, and it's a 1.5 foot thick. And he's sitting there next to Faraday, and Faraday's like, he's just gonna wedge this out and get up and down. And next thing you know, they hear this whoosh, and this, half a paddock lands next to Ernie, and Ernie's like, holy fuck. And he's like, mate, I'm on camera here, but that's cool. Yeah. It goes to like 10 foot, and he's just going, I can't believe nobody can hit that shot. Like, It's how good people don't realize probably how good he was.
Mm.
He's good. We all know Tiger was good, but he did some stuff, and you're just like, wow.
I think I got goosebumps in you telling that story, but I think what we're saying there, right, is that Tiger just did shots that, we got guys out there who win tournaments, and Rory's one of those guys that hit shots that no one else in the world can hit. And Tiger did that regularly. He did that regularly.
Every week.
So tell me,
crazy.
Have you ever been on 59 watch when you've been caddying?
Yeah, I reckon. I think I was with Endicott at New South Wales Open at Twin Creeks one year. I think he lit it up pretty well. He was like through 2 rounds, he was lighting it up. I think he finished with like 63 or something, but he was going there pretty low. And it's just, you don't realize. I didn't realize until the camera started turning up, and you're like, "Oh, are we doing something?" Okay, cool, because you're kind of in the flow, and it's a magical place to be. Like it's a place you can't kind of. I guess you can't manufacture it. It just happens when you're in the flow.
Do you?
And it's pretty cool.
Do you generally know what your players are at when they're scoring? Can you?
Yeah. You generally have an idea. You've got to kind of you've got to have an idea of how they're going, and you've got to have an idea of the leaderboard if it's a Sunday and they're doing something. And you generally have to have an idea. Whether they don't. Some guy I caddied for a guy recently, and he didn't watch leaderboards at all. Yeah. Remember, we played the tournament, and the last hole, he's hit his last shot in and goes, "How are we going?" I said, "Oh, we're fine." So,
he said, and what was that fine? Is someone making the cut or fine in as that?
That was for first stage European Tour School.
Oh,
down at Rosebud, yeah.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
And that was just like, how are we going? Yep, no, we're sweet. So kind of, and then you get guys going, "Oh, what have I got to do?" And it's like, well, you need a couple to catch up here. That's when you're like 2 behind on Sunday, and you're chasing, or
Oh God.
They're certain, yeah, but yeah, no, I know where they are. As if they don't, but they'll ask me. You got to know. You got to know.
That's interesting.
So.
It's an interesting story around when I first ever got Twitter, and I used it for about 3 months, and that was it. I've never been back on. And Trevor Immelman won the Masters, and I heard a story that he didn't know he was winning.
Yep.
And I didn't believe it. And
mm-hmm.
He was winning by 4, I think. And anyways, I tweeted him, and my old boss, Freddie Parker at Eleanor, couldn't believe it. He actually wrote back to me. He's like, "What do you mean? This is like the full start of, social media."
Yeah.
And I said, "Yeah." Trevor Immelman wrote back to me, "Look, here's the message." And I said to Trevor something along the lines of, was it true that you didn't know you were winning going into the last hole? And he said, "No, I didn't." He said, "I hit it in the middle of the green, and my caddy looked at me and said, 'Congratulations, you just won the Masters.'"
That's pretty cool, isn't it?
That's pretty cool. He looked at his caddy, and his caddy said, "How are we going?" And like that, and he said, "You've just won the Masters. Congratulations."
There's another good one when Andre Stoltz won in Vegas.
Yes.
And he held a putt, and the crowd's going nuts, and he's just like, "What?" And his caddy goes, "Oh, you won, you dickhead." He had no idea.
Was that the PGA Tour?
Yeah, PGA Tour event, yeah, a long time ago.
He was so good.
Mm.
I congratulated him the other day. I ran into him up at the Australian PGA. I congratulated him for winning the Legends Player of the Year.
Oh, he did too. That's right.
Yeah, he's so good. He had a few things.
He was a flusher.
So good. All right, tell me. All right, so what's one of the biggest, you don't have to mention anything, but have you seen like the biggest explosion ever on the golf course? You don't have to mention names.
Yeah, I mean, you see a bit, and it's kind of whether it's guys just berating themselves down the fairway, or I mean, I've seen somewhere like clubs get thrown a long way, or clubs get snapped. It's pretty funny, or tee markers get hit, and it's just or signs get smacked, or you kind of see everything.
How does that make you feel? Like, are we assuming this is a player? Is this a player you've been caddying for?
There've been a few, but also you just see them in the same group.
That must make you feel extremely uncomfortable.
Sometimes, but it's also a good thing sometimes, because they've built it up so much.
Yeah.
And I actually want a player to let it out.
Okay.
As well. But I'll say to them, like, smack a tree or something. Just, if we're going in a tunnel, I'll be like, "You kick the shit out of the bag if you want. We're going through the tunnel, mate. Like, let it out. Like, I want you to." it depends on the situation. Sometimes you're like, "Ooh, that's a bit too much,"
Oh,
and then sometimes it's like, "Okay, we're good now." So, yeah,
wow. Well, then do you get a little smile out of them after it? Because,
yeah.
and what about, all right, tell me when you made a really poor decision. Have you got a story from me when you made just the wrong decision?
And not off the top of my head, I mean, there was probably I, yeah, I've got a couple from earlier in the year. Um, I was at an event, and I was with a new guy I was just filling in for, and he was having he wasn't in a good spot mentally. He was struggling. He was about to lose was losing his card, and so all situational, obviously, and just you become the brunt of everything. And it was like, he goes, what do we got? And I said, mate, you got 176 yards, and then the pin's on 20, so you got 196. But you just want to hit it like 180, right? It's par three, howling sideways, and then you just want to get it on, and get it out of there. Two putt, get out of there. It was like a 3-iron. It was cold and windy, and
Yeah.
what are you telling me that for? And I'm like, well, because that's where you should probably hit it, mate. Like you don't want to. That's where you want to go.
You don't want to carry the number.
Well, I don't, no. Do you think Ernie Els is trying to hit it there? And I'm like, yeah, I do. Ernie's not hitting it there, mate. I'm going to go at the pin like Ernie. And I was like, all right, man. Fans it out, like hooks it left. And then he's like walking up, no, this fucking been caddying for 20 years, you know, blah, 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 just hosing me the whole time. And I'm like, mate, just hit your chip shot and knock it in and go to the next hole. Hits his chip shot, hits to a foot, and then, like, you know, walks to the next hole. And he's like, well, you know what, mate? Like, just if you're not gonna be decisive, you know, just put the bag down and piss off. And I'm like, if you want to do your own stuff, mate, I'll just
Wow.
go to the next. I'll just carry on. I'll just carry the bag for you. He's like, yeah, you just carry the bag then. I was like, all right, man, cool, no worries. Like, you know, and it's just and I yeah, I think it's just all situational.
That must, yeah. Like, I'm not a confrontational type like guy, and I'm a people pleaser kind of person, and I like the room to be good energy.
Yeah,
around. I don't like
definitely
a rough edge around, and it's just very awkward. And yeah, I can just imagine. So, but that's not you making a bad decision. That's you just getting in trouble for making a decision. You haven't pulled the wrong club for anyone. Is that only me that's done that in my 2-day career?
Oh no, I've pulled the wrong club. I've given wrong yardages and stuff, and kind of, you know, you do give the occasional wrong yardage. I gave one. I went off. The amount of times I've gone off the sprinkler behind or in front is, you know, it's you know, count on two hands. But yeah, it's kind of wrong yardages, or the hardest one's the wind too. When you think that what the wind's doing, and you're trying to just trust the forecast, and it does something else, and you're like, sorry, mate. You know, I just
yeah.
I don't, you know, but yeah, no, you give wrong numbers occasionally, and most of the time, the guys are really good. You know, everyone makes mistakes, so they're pretty good with that, and they go, don't worry about it, it's all good. I'll just get it up and down for you, and they do. So you feel pretty good about it after that.
I'm stressing just listening to you talking about it. You know,
but most guys will pick up on it though. Like they're all pretty switched on, and luckily we've got everything in front of us. I've zapped. I've done it myself with playing Asquith, and I zapped the back trees on one hole instead of the flag, and I hit it 40 yards into some bloke's backyard.
Yeah.
You know, like, and you're like, oh, what was that? And it's just, wrong thing I zapped. But
no,
yeah,
it's those yardage booklets and stuff. Like, you mentioned a few things that a caddy's got to do, right? And not only you got to know your player, right? You got to carry the bag. Got to make sure you keep stealing those free drinks every time you go around, and then you got your yardage booklet, and then you got to know the wind, and then you got to know the landing spots of where to have the ball finish. Like, when I was caddying, the amount of times that Andrew actually got the yardage for me before I knew, because I was just like, like there's things like reading something out of church or something. I can't understand it.
Yeah,
and it's
the hieroglyphics, mate. Hieroglyphics.
That's the word I was looking for. And I'm just going, man. And he goes 176. Sometimes I went, yeah. I just fucking agree with him. I was just like,
Yeah.
I can't be bothered. It's too hard. I'm trying to work all this stuff out, and I just found it incredibly challenging. So
It is hard. Yeah, you kind of learn on the go with that, and you learn to look for what's around, and then you just look and go, and then get the book out and go, oh, yep, okay.
tell
How good's my math here?
me if someone, what type of person or someone's looking to get into caddying, you know,
Mm-hmm.
what are they looking to get into? Where do they start? What's the go?
I mean, I think the best place to start is probably for your club's pennant team.
Good one.
I mean, I started out caddying at Long Reef for Lucas Bates. You remember Batesy?
Of course.
So yeah, I caddied for him for many years. I think caddying probably 5 years in the pennant team, and then kind of
good player. Went on to be a good.
And then
Australasian player, I guess we could say, or a pro-am player.
Yeah,
very good player.
Very strong, very strong. He used to hit it so good. I always remember how he used to use those Elkington blades. Scotty McGuinness.
No, he was a bit like a Scott Piercy.
Oh, Scott, yeah. Scott, he's a flasher too, Scott Piercy.
So Batesy, so you reckon, caddying for your pennant team's a good way to start?
Pennant team or going, like club championship and stuff like that, getting around it. Or there is also, I know that club, New South Wales was having a caddy program. I don't know if they still do anymore. New South Wales Golf Club. And Capital in Melbourne needs caddies as well. So, but yeah, staying around your club championship, junior pennant team, Eric Appley, stuff like that, or going out. I know a lot of guys started going out with their mums or dads, and just wandering around.
Yeah, okay.
And learning the game that way as well, and that kind of helps us. Yeah, you could also a lot of juniors the respective junior golf foundations like normally get some of their kids to help out during pro-ams for the Aussie Open or the Aussie PGA, and they'll go and caddy for the plays in the group and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of ways to do it, but yeah, just generally at your local club's a pretty good way to start. And what in Australia especially. So
yeah, exactly. What about a pro? So what about, like, say someone who's a little bit more, who's looking at it maybe of a career change and things like this?
Yeah.
How does it start? I always kind of imagine it's like a date. Like, how do you even have all your bags that you've had and you caddy for? How does it just?
It's just kind of circumstance. I got lucky that I knew the guys and they asked me. You can either do it. A lot of guys now have their friends on the bags, because they want someone who's out there who will help them with their golf, but also keep it low key and fun.
Yeah.
Like Shawfley, his best mate's his caddy, right? Dustin Johnson's got his brother.
McElroy and Jason Day, I think, are both the same, but they're on the bag.
Yeah, Rito caddies for Luke Reardon caddies for Jason, and I know that he had a couple of his other mates caddy as well. And then, Rory's got Harry Diamond on the bag now. It's gone are the days where you used to probably rock up in the car park and try and get a loop that way. That's probably 15 years gone now. But back in the day, you just roll up and try and get a bag and do your best. I did that. I did that for Kenny Druce in the 01 ANZ Championship at the Lakes or something. Yeah, a long time. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
That's jeez. I'm surprised he didn't have a caddy.
Yeah, Druce was good. He was. That's when he was playing in Asia, I think, full time.
01? How old are you then?
I was 14.
14. So you were that keen on caddying then?
Yeah, it got me out of school for a week, so yeah.
Wow. Unbelievable.
Got paid to spend, it's pretty cool.
How good's that? He had a good career. So you reckon you got to I guess if you're eager and you want to do it and you got a fair idea, a bit of a people person too, right?
Yeah.
The opportunity's there for you.
Oh, big time, yeah. And I mean, the best way now, if you want to go, I think the pro ranks is either know someone or just like we said, or you can literally you can rock up, but the tour now organises all the caddies, so you can give your name to someone at the tour office and say, I'm looking to caddy this week, and they'll go, okay, no worries. And if it's a big event, then where you have to have caddies, it's on TV, then you more often than not, we'll get a job for like the Aussie Open or the Aussie PGA. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, and from my experience as well, from a player's perspective, they need to get someone like apart from, I'm not going to say like, obviously, we mentioned that those tour players have got their friends, but they're extremely qualified. Like they're probably all done it, and like they know.
That's right.
We say they're their friends, but they're not like that.
They're also very good golfers. They're also pros.
Yeah.
They're
they're not like
well established.
Caddy. It's
no,
it's not like that. It's they're proper golfers, and but back in the day, it used to be, there was specialist caddies, like. And now these days that people are getting into it, and why not? A bit lucrative at that top, right? That one, there. But what we're getting at there is that what I was going to say is I clearly struggled. And, if you're a player who wants to, if you're a player, you want to have someone who's keen and eager and wants to be a caddy. That's who you want at that point in time, what I'm trying to get at there. Like if you're playing in the Australian PGA Championship, I don't think you just want some nuffy pulling your bag. You want someone who's keen and eager who wants to be a caddy.
Yeah, who wants to learn. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
definitely.
They're going to do the best job. You don't want, your bloody best, your best friend ever played golf before. So you're going after someone who can caddy. So, like you say, put your best foot forward. So, tell me, what's the future look like for Painter?
Mate, just got a couple of bags coming up, which would be good.
Yeah.
And just see how that goes.
And are they like a dress rehearsal? Like are they like a first date type of situation? Like, do you get along, or like how does it work?
Some are, but some are just like, hey, I need a guy for a couple of weeks. Can you come and do it? And you go, yeah, no worries. I think that's mainly it. Like, fortunately, I know a couple of the guys. I know most of the guys on the Aussie tour, which is really good. They're all really good to me, and say good day. And I got to know some of them really well, and I'm very lucky in that regard that I can kind of, if they need someone, they know that they can call me and say, hey, do you want to come and help me for a bit? So,
and you want to stay in Australia?
No, I definitely want to. I mean, I've had a taste of Europe the last few years, and it's great, the US and stuff. So I'd like to give that another go, definitely, and see where that goes. But I mean, I've also, I've got a young fella at home, so I've got to kind of,
say that.
Yeah,
Jackson.
That's a big decision as well. So that's kind of, if it's not paying the bills, then I got to take a long, hard, serious look at myself, which I do get in the dream world a bit and go, oh, that'd be nice. You always dream about winning the Aussie Open or the Singapore Masters or the Open.
Yeah.
But that's why we do what we do. But you've also got to be realistic too. So yeah, we've got a few things in the pipeline, but we'll see what happens.
Oh, that's good.
Might do a podcast. So
sorry.
No, might do a podcast.
Get into it. Why not? It's good fun. Lots of people listen to this one. Don't know why, but they do. I thank them for it. Thank you very much. Oh, mate, well, that's, I think you've really opened my eyes a little bit there. Is there anything that I've missed? Is there something that I should be talking about?
I don't think so. I think you've covered everything. It's just kind of I think the main message is for all golfers of all aspects out there, keep it really simple, isn't it? Which is what you preach as well. And don't, keep it simple. Don't, the KISS principle, which is, I think, relevant in a lot of things, not just golf.
So. What I say to people as well is that, a lot of coaches that are out there are putting a lot of information on the internet based on to try and sell themselves, make themselves look smarter, right? That's what they're trying. Now, I think what's important for golfers listening to this is that you need to think of me as the mechanic and you as driving the car. I need to know everything that happens in your car. I know everything, how the car moves. I know the pattern. I know what works, what makes it work, what doesn't make it work, and what needs to be worked on. You don't need to. You just need to drive the fucking thing.
Mm-hmm.
Take care of everything else, and you do that. So don't you? And then you have the opportunity to keep it simple, right? Like
absolutely,
that's your role. You've got everything all sorted out. When you're a player, when you get to a tee box, you could talk to that player for half an hour about that hole.
Mm-hmm.
He just needs to know one
definitely.
Thing. He just needs to know where the ball needs to go and how.
That's it.
That's all he needs to know. And you've done all the hard work beforehand. So you're like the mechanic, right?
Yeah.
Or as I call it, the jockey. And
it's the jockey, mate. That's right.
and I'm the horse.
You've got to get a good horse, and you're away. So
That's interesting. Though you've only got one horse. See, I train a lot of horses.
yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's a bit of a scary thing. Hey, Jono,
What is it? Yeah.
it's been a lot of fun, mate. I appreciate you coming on. It's getting late here in Australia. It's 9:25 p.m. I either shoot these super early in the morning or super late at night, and I appreciate you coming on board.
It's been fun, mate. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks, brother. And hey, where can people catch you? Do you share? You don't share much of your travels and stuff, do you?
No, I think I'm on Instagram. I think it's like Jono Painter. I think that's it, Jono, and then Painter like the occupation. And I've got a Twitter. I think the Twitter is Jono Painter as well, but I don't really tweet as much. But yeah, Instagram's probably the place to find me. So
Why don't you use the gram very often? You obviously go to lots of luxurious places. You've mentioned here the Dunhill Links. You've mentioned Fiji. You've mentioned Aussie PGA, Kalgoorlie. I don't see any of it.
I think it's probably my just me thinking that people don't really want to see it. So I kind of just
I do.
keep it internal. Yeah, I know. I'll get out there a bit more for you, Tobe.
Just take a photo. Just
so
take a photo or a selfie or something.
pop it out there. So get it on the story. I post a few stories. So
You do.
yeah, keep on the lookout for those. But I did a post last week, so that was good. That was the first one in a couple of years. So
Oh, that's funny. Last week. All right, brother. Appreciate you coming on.
All right, mate. Thanks, Tobe.